Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Life Between All or Nothing. I'm Scott J.
And I'm Mary Kay.
And we're here to talk about making changes in your life and living your best life. No matter what point you decide to start over at, it's never too late to start over or to do something different or to take on a new challenge or just to embrace life. And the reason we do this is because we both know what it's like to be stuck in a life that you don't want to be living. And we both know we had to find ways out of it. And that's kind of what we're hoping everybody else can do. And Mary Kay, first of all, I hope you're staying warm because I know you got some cold stuff coming your way, don't you?
Oh, we do. Yeah. I'm warm tonight. I don't know if I can say the same thing tomorrow.
I know.
I'll be bundled up.
And I looked and I saw that you were going to be in the I don't even think there's a measurement for it. I think it's just like, oh my God, it's cold.
Yeah.
And I'm looking and they're talking about record highs tomorrow of 88 degrees. So
oh, stop bragging.
So yeah. But then we drop into a Florida winter where on Saturday it's only 80 degrees. So
and you have to wear socks.
Suffer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wear like a long sleeve shirt, maybe. Anyway,
oh boy.
Excited about the show tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so excited. I haven't been able to contain myself all day.
Well, who we're going to be talking to is Walt McKinley and Stephanie McKinley. And yes, they are married. And Walt has this fabulous book that I have been able to procure. And so have you. Monsters in My House. And don't buy the crayons. There are no pictures to color. I already figured that out. But good reading, good stuff in here. And and we want to talk to him about that and their life together and the changes they're making. This is exactly what we're talking about, is making these kind of changes and changing your voice in your life, no matter what point it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think, no matter what happens in life, we always have the next day and the next day and the next day and the next year. We are literally writing our own chapters, no matter what chapters came before.
That's right.
I can't wait to dive into that with this dynamic duo. I'm going to read, if that's okay with you, Scott, I'm going to read a piece from Walt McKinley's book, Monsters in My House, before you introduce them, if that's all right.
Yeah, just read the first 4 chapters. We got time.
No. I'm just going to read a paragraph. I'm just going to read a paragraph.
All right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Bruce stood at the top of the steps, his silhouette dark as the light from the kitchen hid his back and cast his shadow towards me. He slowly lifted up his arm and started laughing. I could tell exactly what he was holding, and I almost passed out from fear. It was the monster, the mask he usually stored down here and used to torment me. Bruce knew I was terrified of it and took every opportunity to use it. He lifted the mask high into the air so I could see it clearly and laughed. It was an evil laugh, one that pierced my heart.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just got chills listening to that, just the descriptive nature of that. And anyone who's ever had any level of abuse in their life can understand that fear. But we'll talk more about that. Let me tell you about the two of these wonderful people that we have here today. Walt and Stephanie, they're married for 23 years. Now, first of all, we should celebrate that.
Yes,
okay?
Happy
23
anniversary.
years of marriage. They have 2 teen daughters, 18 and 16. They seem way too happy to have 2 teenage daughters.
Yeah.
I had 2 teenage daughters, but they were teenagers at different times, and both those times were the worst times of my life. Walt is a professional speaker, #1 best-selling author of Monsters in My House, which is a true story, and a podcast host of a new podcast called Legacy Warrior Podcast. He's also a retired naval intelligence officer and a former Fortune 300 executive. Stephanie is the co-creator of the Legacy Warrior podcast. She's a marketing genius, a mompreneur, not to be
Mompreneur, woo!
and the glue that keeps their family together. And I can't say enough great things about these two. So why don't we bring them on and they can say great things about themselves? What do we say?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And here we are. We have Alton Stephanie with us. Hi, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
What's going on? Y'all can keep talking. I'm just enjoying
Welcome.
this intro. It's so good.
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently, a Fortune 500 company wasn't enough. You had to be a Fortune 300.
Yeah.
Oh, even worse, when I was there, they kept telling us we were a Fortune top 250, and that's how we should write it. And yeah, it was pretty funny.
Were they really? Wow.
Yes.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Well, welcome.
Can I assume you've run away from the corporate world at this point?
8 pounds, 6 ounce baby Jesus. Thank you. Yes, I have. With the
Oh
support of
my
this
God.
beautiful and amazing woman. Gosh, I guess about 20 months ago now. So it's been a inspirational, beautiful journey and such a blessing for me
20.
and our family. It's been fantastic.
That's
Wow,
incredible.
20 months. That is
Yeah.
incredible. And so you left the corporate world, and there's a part in your book that you talk about, or you describe a scene in the street where your dad was coming after you and he finally got you and he hit you.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of hitting him back like you could have, you were probably very capable of doing that. You got up and you ran and you kept running. But what I found really impacting about that part of the book was that it's not really that you were running away from him and all that. You were running towards your freedom. You were running towards something. And that's not that's not the last time you did that. So you did that with your corporate career too.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to hear a little bit. I want you to tell the audience about how you came to leave corporate America and why, like what was happening during that time.
Yeah, and I think first and foremost, we all have choices in life. We all have choices to embrace the fear of the unknown and to take a step forward anyway, knowing what's for us right now isn't for us anymore. And so we can allow a setback to make a step back, or we can continue to forge ahead and keep taking the next step in faith, knowing that what we're doing is walking in our purpose. And so, it's really crazy because I think about it and we're in corporate America at the time. PPP loans was kicking off. It was in the middle of COVID. Everybody chilled out at work, that seemed like, except for me. We got 4 times the amount of work at a payroll company I worked for with the same amount of people. And so I was working, no joke. I mean, what do you think, Steph? 12 to 14 hours a day, probably.
Oh, yeah.
And Stephanie would bring me in lunch and stuff, and we're working from home. I can't even thank her. I mean, she would bring it in. I'd move my hand on the side of the thing like thanks. But I'm in Zoom calls for 10, 12 hours a day. And as soon as I would get off a Zoom call, I had a team in the Philippines, a team in India, and 4 teams in the US, and leaders everywhere. As soon as they would see me go green on WebEx, they're like, what, can you help? Can you help? And of course I can. I owe it. I'm your leader. I owe it to you to be there for you. So here I am trying to be this best leader and impact their lives positively. I'm trying to show up as the best husband and father that I can, but I'm not showing up at all for myself. Like I wasn't filling no kind of bucket for me, and nobody can fill your bucket except for you. Maybe somebody can help it overflow, but they can't fill it. And, one time Steph asked me, and I've been going to the cardiologist and seeing, because I was having heart problems and couldn't figure it out. I thought it was just stress. 18 months into this, and Steph one day goes, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" And I was like, it's like 5:30. I was like, I don't know. I'm hungry. I just want to eat. I make decisions all day. Like, why are you asking me what I want for dinner? And here I am triggered, really frankly, being an asshole at the moment. And not even really realizing it. Right. I was frustrated. I was mad. And Steph, I'll let you jump in here because you so eloquently tell this piece of the story and what you told me in that moment. And this is important, right? Because she could have took it personal. She could have got pissed because the way I was talking to her in that moment, been triggered and reacted back towards me. but she realized in this, thank God she's so patient. Jesus, had to be married to me for 23 years. In this moment,
Yeah,
she stopped. She knew that I was under a tremendous amount of stress and she didn't make it about her and she supported me. And so go ahead, babe. Like tell them what you said.
So yeah, like you said, I recognized he was under a lot of stress. He had been working a lot and, not really having any breaks. And, he came in that night and he was saying, I don't know, it was just the way he came at me. It was like, what's for dinner? And it was like 5:30 in the evening. And if you know me, I don't cook dinner early like that. And I'm thinking the 23 years we've been together, there's ever been dinner on the table at 5:30. But so needless to say, I could tell in that moment that something else was going on. Like this didn't have anything to do with dinner.
Mm.
And so I just turned to him and I said, is everything okay? And
she meant it though. It wasn't like, are you all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I did.
It was like, hey,
Because
What's
the
wrong
way he
with
said
you?
it to me, I was ready to be like,
talk to me like that
what?
again.
And I think he knew, like, and when you're together for a long time, you know how to push each other's buttons. You know what triggers they have. You know how you can get them. And I felt like that's kind of what he was doing. That or just the stress. So, I really felt like I could tell something was off. And so I did ask him, like, is everything okay? And he honestly kind of just broke down in that moment.
Oh.
And I'd never seen him like that. And if you know my husband, he's always so strong. And he's always the one that's the rock for everybody else. And so to see him literally kind of just break down was very alarming to me because I don't often see him that way. So
when I told her, I said, so she just hugged me for a second. And my eyes welled up and I was like, babe, I'm not even physically or emotionally tired anymore. Like I'm tired in the depths of my soul of who I am as a human being. I can't even tell you how tired I feel inside. And she just hugged me and loved on me. And a couple days later, I thought I was having a heart attack in the middle of a meeting. And I left and I'm like, I'm going to go to the hospital. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. Give me 2 aspirin. And she's like, I'm going to drive you to the hospital. What the hell's wrong with you? Like, I'm going to take you.
Yeah, he comes to me telling me he's going to have a heart attack and then telling me he's going to drive himself over there.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Hell no.
Oh my God.
Crazy talk. And so
talk about
this is a
resilient.
big
I'm
one,
like,
but it's okay. I got it.
It's only like 5 minutes away. I think I got at least 6. So
Superman.
And the cool thing is this moment, I could have thought it was happening to me. But as I looked at my life resume and I realized that for us, our spirituality really does come from God. And so I know that God will close a door and he will repeat a lesson for you over and over and over again until you realize that door is closed. And he was repeating it over and over and over again as I exhaustedly tried to kick down this bolt lock door in front of me to bring me to my knees enough to turn around and allow me to go down the door that he had opened all along. And that was to use, my past and my story to give people the absolute belief that they can do what I've done and they can heal from trauma and they can find this amazing, beautiful journey on the other side of this pain they feel like sometimes they can't get out of, that pit of despair we've all lived in at times. And so when it was time to go back to work, she told me, she's like, if you die today, all the things we bought, all the stuff we have, none of it matters. Like the couple $100,000 a year I was making, she's like, I don't care. Like, let's sell the house. I don't care. We'll do what we got to do. She's like, I've been begging you to write your book for a decade and you wanted to speak professionally for a decade or as your profession. Screw it. Let's go for it. And I needed that support from her, that permission from her to go all in. And I got to tell you guys, like, it's been the most beautiful journey and we're closer today than we've ever been, spending more time together than we ever have. And just having a freaking blast and changing people's lives. Like, what a blessing for us.
Let me tell you guys.
Let's unpack this just a little bit. First of all, don't lie in your bio because you said you've been married for 23 years. She's obviously 24 years old, so this is obviously this is a real problem here. Whatever's happened, we don't want to talk about that. But let's
Got them good
unpack this. Let's unpack this from the beginning, because obviously what happened with your corporate job wasn't because of the job. It was because of your past that you drug along with you for so long. It finally broke. It finally broke you down. But let's start with that past, and let's talk quickly. Now, obviously, you two don't share the same past. I'm looking at your book, and I have not had a chance to fully read it yet. I've just been able to peruse it because I just got it the other day. It is nice and neat, and I love the smell of new books. By the way, I just love that. So your book smells good. But I understand this is about an abusive childhood that you survived. Can you give us a quick synopsis of what we're talking about here, and what you went through?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, shout out to everybody that's on, but I see my 18-year-old daughter Monica on. What's up, baby? I see you down there.
Hi, Monica.
So I moved 14 times in the first 16 years of my life, being abused and frankly tortured at times by every adult that I came into contact with. My father, my stepmother, my stepfather, some neglect by my own mother, and then foster parents that I lived with. And frankly, just really treated like a piece of trash. I felt unloved. I felt unworthy. I felt like I didn't matter to anybody. It was like every time I packed my stuff in a black garbage bag and moved to the next place because I didn't want, whoever I lived with didn't want me anymore. It was like I was packing my soul in that garbage bag and throwing it out every single time. What I realized in my life journey, though, was, God trusted me with this pain. Hurt people, and they transferred that generational to me. But God trusted me with this pain because he knew my purpose would be to use it to reach those people that feel unreasonable because of the level of torture that I endured. But because I feel like it happened for me, not to me, what it's done is allowed me to break the generational cycles for my own family, but also be able to receive the love, also be able to help other people. And I don't ever diminish. I don't regret any part of my story because I love who I am today. And I am who I am because of every single one of my experiences. And the one experience I leave out, Scott, you talked about, you don't leave any of your story out, is the one thing that might save somebody's life. Like those times I was thrown in the basement, those times that I was thrown in closets and chained to beds and tortured, those times I needed to have experienced so that I can use that to create a ripple effect to change somebody else's life along the way. And although Stephanie didn't experience childhood trauma like I did, God gifted her to me when I was at a real crossroads in my life, in my late teens, early 20s. She was a freshman in college. I was new to the Navy. I was making friends like any good Navy guy does. And here we are 26 years later, 23 married. She loved me through all of my healing. I needed her specifically to be the man that I am today. And so it is truly a gift for me that God gifted her to me when he did, because I could have went the other way. Like I wasn't very far away from being in prison at certain times.
Yeah.
So when you and Stephanie got together, what were you open about what had gone on? Stephanie, were you aware of the past that he had? Or did this take a long time to unfold for you two?
It did take some time. Actually, when I met Walt, you would have never known that he had gone through that at all. He approached me in a way that, I mean, I don't know if you really want to hear the whole story, but
Yes.
We actually met in a dance club. I was 18, he was 20. And like he said, I was a freshman in college. He had just gone to his first assignment from the Navy, his first school. And you have to understand where I lived. It was like really rural. So this was like one of the closest things to my house when it was still like 40 minutes away. And, crazy circumstances because he wasn't even supposed to go that night either. He was planning to go somewhere else and his friend got sick. So he ended up there, and long story short, but I had just broke off in a relationship 2 days before and was like, I want a fun night out with my girlfriends. And
little did she know.
Wow.
And so, to talk about divine, I think this was like a divine meeting. So I'm dancing with my couple friends, and I did. He thinks to this day that I that I was trying to blow him off, but the way the club was, there was like 2 levels, and there was a top level and a bottom level, and it was just like a step down. And me and my friends had just decided to go down this step, and right before that, I felt like something hit my waist, or I didn't know.
Like tapping her, like trying to get her attention.
And I looked back, but I didn't see anything because it was dark. And he thought that I looked back and was like, oh, whatever, you know? And so we're down. And then next thing I know, I feel a tap on my shoulder. This time I turn around and here's him. He's like, what's up? Like, I just like that, like this, like what biggest personality you've ever seen. Just like, what's up? Like with this total confidence and big smile. And I just was like, oh, wow. Like, what's he all about? You know, I was so taken aback by his approach because of the way, you know, he didn't try to really just, you know, if you've ever been to a dance club, which I'm sure a lot of you have, they try to just come up on you and, you know, touch you and whatever. And he wasn't like that at all. His approach was totally different. So I was like, oh, what's he all about? And we were dancing for like a couple songs and we had great conversation. He was funny. And I just the whole time was thinking like, I love his energy. He's so fun. And he's talking all about Arizona and, you know, we're in Connecticut, which is where I had pretty much grown up. So I thought he was very intriguing and he just had a very fun personality, smiling, full of energy. So you would have never known that he came from the past that he did. And it did take a while for him to kind of open up about some of that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got to wonder, you know, that kind of confidence, considering what you're writing about in your book and how you grew up, Walt, was that a false bravado to protect the wounded person inside of you? I mean, how did you find that way to just come across so okay when you felt so damaged inside? What was that all about?
I think it's 2 things. One, yes, it was like a confidence and borderline arrogance sometimes that protected, you know, me always trying to show up, me always trying to get attention because I didn't get any. And if he gave me attention, I was like, please, can I have another bite of that attention? You know, I never did drugs or anything, but like that was my drug for sure, was attention. And feeling loved in the moment. But I think the second part of that was also something that I was fostering internally, which was, it was really like the perspective of where I came from and just a gratitude for where I was, because I understood how far I'd come and that I had made it through the darkest times of my life. And the future was looking bright if I made the choices that I knew that I would need to make along the way. If I allowed myself to trust somebody else who might love me or break my heart. If I took mentors on in the Navy that believed in me before I believed in myself and helped foster my own development. And so I think it was a mix of both. And it over time, it really became more just about the perspective and self-confidence and the self-worth and the self-love that I started to gain for myself versus the bravado. So, I mean, look, Steph's over here. She's grabbing my hand. She's like, hold up. I got something to say about you right now.
I did want to throw something in here because in his book,
now for the truth.
Let me turn our mic down. Hold on. I don't know what's wrong, Steph.
No, but there's a part of his book, if you do read the book, and, you know, after you've gone through reading about all this trauma, and you get to the part where he starts talking about this journey in the Navy. And I didn't even really realize this until I heard this part of his book. All the years I had been with him, it never occurred to me because I always thought kind of the same thing. Like, how were you so happy and confident when I met you? And literally a lot of this abuse had just ended a couple of years before I met him.
Yeah.
And he talked about how he, you know, when he joined the Navy, it took him away from that place that he had endured all that abuse. And he was embarking on a whole new life. Mm-hmm. So I think he was actually really happy at that time because it was like, man, I can start to rewrite my story now. So I think there was like a really true happiness there. And I just think and through time, like as he built trust, with me, and he started to open up about a lot of those things, it started to let more pieces go and more pieces go. And he healed more and more because he realized, like, okay, my story isn't going to scare people away. Like, because my response to it was just like, I was so
Shocked.
upset for him, not like, oh, like, you feel like you're going to endure this judgment. But, I think as he opened up about it, he realized that wasn't the case. So
That's a really good
Wow.
point. That's a good point. And I think a lot of guys are afraid to open up.
Yeah.
And this is probably goes the other way. Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It probably goes the other way too, with women opening up about their past because they're afraid of judgment. And when you find somebody and you start to fall in love, or you start to really care about them, and you want to share all this stuff, but then you kind of like put this wall up, say, I can't let them see this side. And I have experience with that, being in a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, and being a child that was abused, and then because I carried that stuff with me. Unfortunately, I didn't find a release for that like you did with the military. I found just keep stuffing it until I had my own kids, and I became an abusive parent. And realized that I have to start letting the sunshine in. I got to start talking about this stuff and releasing it. But I was so afraid to share that with people. Was there any point when you were like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Or were there any points where you just, because, no, I mean, this is
It's a good question.
That's a good question. That's a really good question, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. If it weren't for the way he treated me, I never felt scared of him. Like he never showed that to me. Like I didn't ever feel like he would hurt me, and he never raised his voice to me. He never even cussed at me. Like he never showed any of that to me. And I could see that he really had this protective nature of women and children. And that if he let out any anger, it was always towards other men. So, in our early days, well, I have a lot of stories. He wanted to fight everybody. He wanted to fight every man that he came into contact with. It felt like sometimes, like, and for a long time, it took me a long time to understand, why does he want to fight everybody? I didn't get it. And, so that's part of what started to make the story come out, because I was like, what is with it? Like, why do you have such a chip about certain things? And, but no, I never actually personally felt worried about, being with him because of his past.
But I think also it's like I had to gain some self-awareness of putting her at risk.
Yeah.
There was one time we're leaving the Hoop It Up tournament on the naval base, and we're walking across this field, and because now we're in our early 20s, okay, y'all. So we had a party the night before. Go figure, I'm playing an attorney the next day. She sprains her ankle doing the Roger Rabbit tour up, right? Bam, the party was up, and she's on limping bad, right? So we brought a metal chair with us so she could sit, because she still wanted to go just watch and be supportive and cheer her husband on in these basketball games all day. So we're coming back, and there's a car full of 4 guys, and they're hauling towards us. Well, she's limping getting across the crosswalk, and there just happens to be nobody around us at this point, because we're leaving late, because she's walking slow. Let's be real. And so these guys stop. And for me, something that I always do, and even now today we go on for our walks every day, I always walk on the outside. For me, that's a man thing. I feel like if someone's gonna get hit by a car, it's gonna be me, and I can at least try to push you out the way. And so if I push you, just know that. So they stop, like, I'm not joking, you guys, 12 inches from my leg. And so I stop.
Car full of 4 men, and 4 grown men,
and start yelling. And so I go after him, swing, like, I'm like, your friends might get out, but I promise you ain't about to get out.
I mean, he takes this metal folding chair he's carrying for me, because I was sitting on it all day, and he's carrying the chair, and he's like, all I see is him going towards the car with the chair.
Oh my
There's
God.
no one else around, just car, 4 men, and him, and he's going at them with the chair. I'm like, what is he doing? And I'm getting pissed, because I'm like, how dare you put me in this situation? There's 4 of them and 1 of you. So when you get taken out, who do you think they're going to come after?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're
I
pretty
think
Wow.
I think I saw
Wow.
Hulk Hogan do the same move one time.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, I did like WWF back in the day. But so the thing
Oh
was,
my
is I
God.
had to build some self-awareness and the communication that had to happen between the two of
Yeah.
us to say, hey, that's not fair for me to potentially put you at risk. Because the reality is, if those guys all got out of the car, I might have hit one with the chair. The other three are going to be able to take me down. I wasn't that much of a badass, even though I thought I was.
He
It
was
was
Yeah.
just triggered, angry, react. I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna break your leg. If I find something to stab you with, I'll probably do that too. But then what happens
Wow.
to my wife, who's limping? It ain't even like she could run. And so I had to really learn how to control my emotions better. Not so that I wouldn't hurt her, but so by proxy she wouldn't get hurt because I
Yeah,
was
because
triggered and I reacted.
But I
in a
had to
moment.
really communicate that to him because he
yeah.
didn't see it that way at all.
Yeah.
He just
Right.
reacted in the moment.
They aren't gonna
And
punk me out.
I had to tell him, hey, like, please pay better attention to the fact that something happens to you,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a woman by herself. So, you know, just those were some of the lessons along the way.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. And thank you for going into some of those details too, Steph, and how you felt about it and the need to communicate. Now, I want to bring up the topic of forgiveness here
Mm.
because I
Mm.
know both of you have done that. And specifically now, Walt, I know that you had to get into a courtroom. You had to testify against your dad, right?
Yeah.
Like that was a lot. And your mom had been around this entire time. You had to forgive her. So can both of you talk a little bit about the forgiveness that you had to create and give to yourselves and to everybody that had a hand in that past?
Yeah, I think for me, I'll take you to a time when I was 19 years old. First time I ever took Steph home to meet my family. So I hadn't seen my
Mm.
mom in about a decade at this point. Since I was, gosh, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. I'm 20 years old. She's, 18. I'm like excited to bring this girl to meet my family and my aunt and everybody else, right? And so I wanted to see my older sister, my little sister. And so I drove to California. We all met at my mom's house. I'm sitting like with them. We're all hanging out, great time. I go to get a drink in the kitchen, and my little sister was talking to a man. So I'm like, is that my mom's boyfriend? Because I ain't never met him, so I don't, And I fill the cup up, and I turn around and I go to walk back in the living room, and I was like, hey, what's up, dude? And he's like, hey, Walt, and it hit me. I took 2 steps into that living room, and it hit me. It was Bruce, the
Oof.
man who used to lock me in the basement and just beat me to an inch of my life. And I will tell you, Stephanie
And this
remembers
is where
this.
I only knew him a year at that point.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about any of this past abuse like that. I knew a little bit.
Yeah. And I walk in the living room, and she's like, you're turning white and red. The blood is flowing. And I'm literally the angriest I've been in my life. And I looked at my mother and I was like, if you don't make him leave, I'm going to literally go stab him to death. And the only reason I'm not is because my little sister talking to him. It was uncontrollable rage for me in this moment, because now I'm a man and so are you, bro. I'm not a little boy anymore.
Oof.
And my mom runs back there and is like, you need to get the hell out of here. Right. Cause they weren't together. And so he leaves. So I see the same guy 12 years later, and I'd done a lot of work at this point at my sister's wedding. And I was able to walk up to him and shake his hand and say, hey, congratulations, because it's his daughter, even though it's my little sister, right? Congratulations. Yeah. Now, we didn't hang out and get chummy and, cheers on some drinks for the rest of the night. But what I did do was I just had fun. I danced with my wife. I danced with my daughters. I danced with my mother even. I danced with my sisters. And I just had fun. But what I realized in my healing journey around forgiveness, when I would get triggered even just thinking about somebody that hurt me, and I would re-victimize myself mentally over and over and over and over and over again, and it would ruin my day, then I'd be frustrated to the people I love the most who deserve that love from me. And the person who abused me is living their miserable life because they haven't had the courage to heal from their own trauma yet, right? The things that they went through, the reasons why they ended up hurting me and transferring it generationally.
Yeah.
And I just knew if I wanted to really be happy and unlock happiness, I had to forgive, not because it's okay, not because I ran and told them it's okay, you could go live your life. I forgive you. I didn't do any of that. I
Mhm.
had to forgive for me, and forgiveness for you may be grace and forgiveness for yourself for when you don't have the capacity to show up how you want to. Forgiveness is also how you forgive other people for the pain they caused you, not for them though, so that you can take the poison out of your soul.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's
Yeah.
deep, and you can replace that space with love and just move around the world different as a human being inside, so that the people that you love the most get the best version of you. You owe it to yourself and you owe it to them. So if you're out there listening to this and you're struggling with forgiveness, that is the key that unlocks the rest of the poison that's just crushing you on a daily basis. But don't forgive for them, forgive for you, so that you can be the best version of yourself, and that so you can love the people the way that they deserve to be loved around you.
Wow.
Is
Powerful.
was that a moment when you realized how much weight that you've been carrying all that time? When, because a lot of times we don't recognize the anger and
Mhm.
the resentments and all those things that we carry. We don't recognize how much weight it adds to our soul
Mhm.
until it's lifted. So
Mhm.
explain how that felt to you to have that lifted. Did you really recognize that like as a substantial moment in your life?
Oh yeah, that's why I write about it in the
Yeah.
book too, around
Yeah.
forgiveness, especially because
Yeah.
forgiving my mom and dad for things was much easier for me. Forgiving my stepfather for what he did to me was a lot harder, and even the extreme abuse of being made to drink scalding hot water and stuff by my stepmother, who was married to my dad. She had passed away, so the anger didn't feel the same. He was alive.
Mhm.
So for me, seeing him in that moment really did, Scott. It was like an epiphany as I sat there, because 12 years earlier, I wouldn't have been able to have no fun. I would have been thinking about stabbing him with one of the damn knives that were.
Yeah.
I'm not joking you. That's how angry I was. But what really made me kickstart the healing journey was, one, just loving Stephanie, right? And her the way she just loved me for me, all of me,
Aw.
the good, the bad, the ugly, especially back then, and not a lot of ugly now.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. So, but and Steph, if you want to jump in on this too, but what I realized when I had my daughter Monica, I didn't want to repeat the generational cycles. Like my daughter's being born was a puzzle piece that completed my humanity, like that changed me inside, like nothing else can. And if I didn't want to repeat the cycles, then I had to let go of the pain. Otherwise, I was destined in some way, shape, or form, not the same way, maybe, but in some way to repeat those cycles. And so
Yeah.
it really was about being the best version of me so I can be the best version for them. But I had to do it for me more than anybody else so that I would continue to work through it when I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if I could face some of this shit. Like, how am I going to do that when I'm not sharing that emotion with nobody but
Wow.
me and my brain and my soul and my heart? So it was like this evolution to that moment at that wedding. And it was like, I'm just having fun. Like, I don't even really give a shit if he's here or not. I just really
Wow.
did.
Excuse me.
That
Wow.
recognition, that's amazing. That recognition that you had the choice to stop that there when your
Mhm.
daughter was coming.
Yeah.
And I wish I had had your insight at that time when I went through it, but I did not. Um, but Stephanie, I mean, with forgiveness and all this stuff, when he shares with you, you start to carry the burden of some of his pain too, don't you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you've been carrying stuff too, but the thing is, it's like, but I'm kind of on the outside. So what is my role in all of this? Did you struggle with some of that?
I did. Well, it's interesting because when I did find out more about his past and everything that had been done to him, even I told him I don't know how you forgive for that. Like I don't know if it happened to me that I could forgive, to be honest. I mean, I really didn't. I still don't know if I could. So I am so proud of him that he has worked really hard to work through all of that. And um, you know, even now I think I still try to understand some of it, and I just think I tried to really be there for him when when he did choose to open up about things, I just really listened. And then I would always just kind of tell him I loved him and just tried to be there and know that he just needed to let that out. And I agree, like for everyone else that's out there and you're still holding on to that stuff. I know that the same because I've had to have some forgiveness in my life too, different thing, but it really is like poison in your soul. If you can't let go and forgive, it's just going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt the person that hurt you. Like you holding on to that doesn't do anything but hurt you. So that's why he says forgiveness is for yourself. It really is. And I understand it because I've lived it too. That the same thing when I finally learned how to let go of anger and let go of that, it's a totally different kind of peace that you feel. And, you know, because I know when you're in that anger, it really is affecting you every day. It was affecting my everyday life and
you're
how
surviving
I showed
in those
up.
moments. Yeah.
Yes. And when I let it go, it was so freeing. And I know it was the same for him. Like once he really realized he could really let that go, he was feeling so free. And it's just the best feeling. So same, I would just recommend to everybody out there, if you are holding on to anger and resentment and bitterness towards someone that hurt you, the only way you're really going to ever be free from it is to learn to forgive.
Okay, let me add one thing to this because this is important too.
Truth.
And if you've been able to forgive and you've been able to really heal from your trauma and you're trying to utilize your trauma in a way that helps other people do the same, that ripple effect that happens, create that safe space for somebody else. Like I was really blessed to have this woman in my life that just always created a safe space for me, even that loved me when I was unlovable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When I wasn't showing up as the best version of me, when I did get pissed off and irritated, when my wife and kids did tell me, because I was so stressed in corporate America, they were walking around on eggshells around me. Not because I yelled, not because I cussed. I was just snippy. And that was really hard for me to hear because I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to do everything I can for this family and everything I can at work. And I'm just, I can't even show up for my freaking self right now. And you need people to create that safe space for you, be honest with you. And then you need to reflect, have some self-awareness, right? Be honest with yourself. Love yourself when you didn't have the capacity to show up as the best you, and then show up better next time. That's how you forgive yourself. You can't just sit and re-victimize yourself and make the choice to stay in that victim mentality your whole life. And I'm in your face about this kind of stuff because I know what it's like to live there, but I also know what it's like to get on the other side of that journey and realize if I want to increase my capacity to love, I got to work through the trauma. I got to forgive even me when I was unlovable. Because I want to be the most lovable version of me now. And now I have the self-awareness to know what I need to do. Now I just need to make the choice to do it. That's where you don't have regrets. That's where you increase your capacity. That's where you grow. And then that's where you don't even change your own life anymore. You start to change the life of people around you. Like it's
yeah. Yeah.
Mary,
And you guys,
that's why we do this show. That's right. I mean, talking about making these changes in your life, right?
Yeah, that's the reason when we started talking and we came up with this show, like it naturally came out of our conversation because there's so many people that are just stuck and they're stuck in whatever it is that they're stuck in, but the actions are their own. Like we have control. We have the power to change our lives. I mean, if the two of you look back now that you've been married, a couple of decades, you see those chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4.
Yes.
And now it's to be continued and you have the pen. And Steph, you put it so powerfully in that letting go and forgiving, like you're going to get that peace, a peace that you've never felt before. And that's, the four of us, that's what's in our hearts. That's our fire. We want to get that out to the world so everybody else can experience the good things that we've experienced and been able to create.
Mary, like, here's what I think. from everybody's perspective. Don't deny the opportunity for your story to change somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
you don't have the courage to change your own today. That's
Yeah.
the reality. Because your
I love it.
testimony, our 4 testimonies, isn't going to save somebody else's life. It's going to be Eric's, Ron's, Jeanne,
Yeah.
my daughter's, Christopher's,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's the power in we that creates a movement to change humanity. So it's like, stop sitting and feeling sorry for yourself. Get up, lift your damn chin up, start asking yourself, what if I really go all in on this? What if? What if I leave corporate America and do what I'm doing and create the best life I've ever experienced and create the impact? What if 26 years ago, I took a chance on this super hot chick in the bar that had really nice jeans and a nice booty, like, like what if, and then she becomes my soulmate, what if we don't go on here? What if you don't overcome your fear of being on these? And your statements are the thing that changes somebody else's life. Like, what if, and you say what if, and you pick your head up, puff your chest out, and stop being in the victim what if of, oh, look at all the bad things that can happen, and start being in all the good things that can happen. And you go that way. That's a difference between living in quiet desperation or living your life with rocket fuel.
Let me throw a disclaimer. Let me throw a disclaimer out there real quick about how you guys met. It's a different time, and just poking a girl in the dark and hiding is now illegal. It's now illegal, so don't do that. Back then it was cute. Okay.
Oh boy.
Sure. Way to clarify that.
Let's clarify that. Now it's called stalking. All right.
No doubt. Which one?
Oh boy.
You guys said something right at the beginning that's really important, and I think it's important that we say this, is that because you've been sharing with Stephanie this whole time, and you guys have been building this life in this partnership, it sounds to me like she was the one who was pushing you. You've got to start making it. You got to write this down. You've got to get this out. How important? I mean, first of all, Stephanie, what was it in you that knew that this story had to be told? His story. It wasn't even your story. It was his story. It had become your story, obviously, but you knew it was important for him. How did you know it was so important?
I felt like if he can overcome that and live the way I saw him living, I knew so many people out there needed to hear that. I still know there's so many people out there that, like he always says, they're living in quiet desperation and just letting life pass by, and you're just existing. And that's why I say it. There were conversations I had with his Aunt Diana, who is like his life hero. She's in the book. And I had some conversations with her about how he was when he came to her. And she told me that he stuttered and that if you even came near him, he'd flinch. And all these things that I was just flabbergasted, like, what? Because the guy I knew was this super confident, happy guy. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You're saying he was like this a couple of years ago? And she's like, yeah. And I just, the power in the whole thing, I thought, seeing what she did in his life, the fact that she took a chance on him and she showed him love, and the difference that love made in the boy he was when he came to her and the man I met were two totally different people. And I was just so impressed by that from that time, I just thought, oh my God, people need to hear this story. Like, the power of love, I can't stress enough. Like, if love can turn that around, I mean, God, the things that could happen in people's lives if they had that support, if they had that love, how different would they show up in this world? Everyone. And that's, I talked to, Scott and Mary a little bit before the show started, and I was telling them, like, part of why I'm even here today, because for those who don't know, I'm actually an introvert, and this type of stuff is very uncomfortable for me. But I feel so strongly about there being a voice for people like me that are the supporter most of the time. in the power of support, that that role is vital in people's lives. Like, you play a vital role. Like, you may not be front and center, you may not be the one that's gets the credit. And for me, I didn't need the credit. My bucket is filled by supporting. Like, it makes me feel good to know I supported you and you succeeded because of that support. That's my reward. And I know there's a lot of people out there like me, and I just want to really voice how important being a supportive role is. You are crucial. Like, everybody's not meant to be the leader. Everybody's not meant to be up on stage. We all have different gifts, and being a supporter and being a loving person is a really valuable gift. So that's all I really have to say.
Let's go, Steph. Fire.
That was
I love
awesome.
that.
On fire. And we're so very grateful, Stephanie, that you are the supporter, and now you're stepping up and talking about it so that you can be a role model for others. And like, why not you, right? Why not you, Steph? So wow. High
I
five.
gotta ask, Walt, did you recognize the weight that she carried while you were going through some of this stuff? And did it take a while for you to see that she was pulling all of this weight right alongside of you?
Oh man, I think it took me a long time. I don't even know that I really realize it today. You know, I just appreciate and love her for who she is. But there's time. I mean, look, we've been married 20. Monica said bars. I see my little bro on here too. What's up, bro? What's your privacy?
Oh,
handle?
wow.
Sorry, I don't have my glasses
So I think I had so many expectations of what I wanted. And so like Stephanie would do 4 things out of 5 that were phenomenal. But I wanted so much out of life, and I expected so much from everybody, including myself, that I would focus on this 5th one that she didn't do. Right. And then be like pissed off that we're late, but really she made us lunch. She freaking cleaned the house. She, she took care of the babies when they were little. She did, right. And I might've helped a little teeny bit. Right. But I'm like, okay, but I'm working though too, and it was like, oh, I just need you to do this. Never sitting and this is life-changing, guys. Really hear me on this one. When I really learned, and I'm growing in massive leaps and bounds in this in my own life right now, to sit in gratitude. You can't be angry and sad and thankful at once. When I was able to sit in gratitude, even now, for my wife, I mean, we're always still late, so it drives me bananas. But like, I don't have the expectation that we're going to be on time. I want to be on time, but I don't have the expectation, right? Like, this is, we joke.
That's my big flaw.
This is like, and then I get frustrated when we're late. So like, this is the biggest argument we have in our marriage in 23 years of marriage. But what I found was, look at all the beautiful, amazing things that my wife is doing. Look at all the amazing things my daughters are doing, my friends, my family, you guys having us on here. I got so much to be thankful for. And if I focus on the gratitude for the way people are showing up, the happiness I internally feel radiates onto other people. You want to light your lighthouse so bright that you're lighting a path in the darkness for others? Take the focus off of you. Start being grateful for what you do have instead of expecting the things that you don't. And what you really want will come to fruition because you will move through this world differently in gratitude. And it's taken me, I think I'm still figuring that out. I'll probably figure that out to the end of my days. I mean,
Continuous learning.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me tell you,
We die.
a lesson in life I learned: you could either have a beautiful wife who shows up beautifully dressed and perfect hair, or you could be on time. You get to choose.
Yes, thank you for
you don't get both.
that.
All right?
God, Scott, I thought we talked about not doing that.
Yeah, I always tell him, like, I wish I could just like run a comb through my hair and I'm done. Like, yeah. Awesome.
I don't even have a comb to run through back here no more. Let's get them all now.
Oh my goodness.
I'm telling you.
Too funny.
You guys are so, besides being nauseatingly cute in your matching shirts, you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. And, I'm just so glad you took the time to share this. And you want to do more sharing. Tell us about this podcast and what does Legacy Warrior mean?
Okay, so I know we're running short on time, but I want to.
We can run over. We're going to run over. I don't care.
So I have to talk about this right now because I'm
Okay.
Steph, you don't have your glasses on, so you can't see it. Gian,
I can't.
you said, I am alone and struggling. I want to tell you right now, you're not alone. You're here with us now.
Jan.
The community that you're part of is vital to your success. But if you tell yourself you're alone, if you tell yourself you're struggling every single day, guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel alone and you're going to struggle. You got to be able, and you know you're feeling this way. So the self-awareness is there. Now you got a choice. Where can you go? When I had my nervous breakdown in corporate America, and I had people around me, but even in the midst of being around people, I felt alone. So for me personally, what I did, for the first time in my whole life, I'd never been to, we've been to church a time, we go to church, but I had never been to a men's group. I said, I just need to be around other men that really understand what I'm going through, where I could be vulnerable in a place with other men that know. So instead of sitting and feeling alone and feeling like I was struggling, I made the choice to go get outside my comfort zone and do something outside the norm in order to move me forward. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. It was something that Stephanie couldn't help me through the same way. And so I just challenge you. I want you to do two things for me. Number one, write on a sticky, I'm not alone. Right? I'm powerful. And I want you to put those on your mirror in your bathroom. And I want you to scream those to yourself every freaking day, because you're not a victim. You're not a survivor. You didn't just make it. You're here. You made the choice to be here tonight, which tells me you're ready to change and you're ready to elevate. And so I want you to press yourself to take some action to get around somebody else that can help lift your spirits just like you did tonight. So I'm proud of your honesty and your vulnerability in this chat. And I'm proud of you for being, allowing us the space to help you too. And so I want you to know, I see you. I see you and I have felt exactly like you. And so I want you to embrace this next part of your journey. So you write those two things down. I'm not alone and I am powerful. And you step into your damn warrior power tonight to know you didn't just make it in life. You ain't just hanging on. Like, you're a freaking certified badass. You're still here despite all the shit you've been through. Own that. Own
Love
that.
it. Way to go.
You are a warrior.
Own that.
Gene,
All warriors.
Gene, I hope you heard all of that, and I hope you can take all that in. Gene has been a part of my podcast world for a while, so I'm hoping that she hears that. Ron sends his hugs to Gene too.
Yeah. Hugs to Gene.
So let's dive into what you guys are doing. No, it's fine. Let's dive into what you guys are doing. Legacy Warrior. Explain first of all. Obviously, the name has got a powerful meaning to it.
Oh, you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
All right. So for me, legacy has been a huge driver for everything I've done in my life. Yeah. Because to me, I wasn't handed a legacy, frankly, that I could be proud of. But I do have the ability to create one that I could be proud of. I have the ability to have my daughter who shares parts of her story, who helps other people. I have the ability to create friendships and communities and groups and everything else that we're doing to change and impact people's lives so they can go do the same for the next person. So legacy for me is deep. I mean, deep. It's in
layers,
right? And then warrior, I say this all the time, like, you're not a victim, you're not a survivor, like, you're a warrior. So many people, we use terminology, victim and survivor, and we just made it. We're just, damn that. The stuff we all been through, we're fighters. We love hard, we fight hard, we protect other people, we grow to be the best version of ourselves. Like, own the warrior inside of you. And when you, what's that? When you're like, I am a damn warrior. Yeah, you're right. And our group knows somebody, and she goes, I'll never use survivor again, Walt. I'm going to say war. I said, that feels good, right? Feels good. Hit your chest if you got to, and I'm in your face with it because I felt like a victim, felt like a survivor in my life. And when I started feeling like a warrior, everything changed. So for us, Legacy Warrior Podcast, February 14th.
February 14th. Woo! Can't wait. Can't wait.
Real people, real stories, and real triumph. we are so hyper focused on bringing out the best in people, getting people out of quiet desperation, getting people to stop living at a fraction of their potential, to not only share our wisdom, but to share the wisdom from other people like you guys, who I'm sure are going to be on the show, right? From other people
Oh, yeah.
who have a triumphant story for the person who needs to hear their story. And when you can aggregate that together and put it all together in a movement to change humanity, not only do you create incredible human beings, but you save families. And you save families and you become, and you do more than you would ever do alone. So go ahead, Steph, because I know, look, you can be fired up.
Yeah, Steph, did he get it right? Did he get it right?
I just wanted to add to what he's saying. I do want to share why we're so passionate about this and why we do call it Legacy Warrior. Obviously, for him, the legacy piece, well, and Warrior, but they're a little different for both of us. But we both feel like everyone has a story. All of us have a story.
Mm-hmm.
We all have struggles. And because Walt deals a lot in the trauma space, and I feel like, sometimes we say like, oh, some people think like, oh, I don't have trauma. No, maybe you don't, but everybody has struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in this life is not getting through without struggle. And we all have a story to tell. And we just feel like the power in everyone's stories means so much more than just hearing ours. So we really want to have people on just like us, everyday people that they triumphed in their own life in some way, because we all have. And we want to hear everybody's story. We want to give people a platform to share their story because we all learn from that. So I think that's a big reason why I'm really passionate about it. Is I'm excited to share ours and also to hear everyone else's, and we all grow together. And the woman that he just spoke to earlier, Jean,
yeah.
You're the perfect person to please come listen to the podcast, because we will be talking about all these things. We want to work on bettering ourselves so that we can show up as the best person for everyone around us. Because if you don't fix what's wrong inside of you, you can't show up for other people the way you should. So we want to help people really do that. We want to help you find your best self so you can be better for everyone else. And yeah, I think that's...
See, you should have just went. I'll take it.
Wow. Well said. Well said, Stephanie. And trauma or struggles, it doesn't discriminate. It is
right.
it is global, no matter what age you are, race you are, income level, like everything. It does not discriminate. So I'm so happy that you guys are going to do this. I'm very excited. February 14th.
You're really
February
excited.
14th.
Really.
February 14th.
I know, I'm always
3 or 4 episodes at once, so people can really get their fill. We're going to need support from people too.
We have a lot of wisdom to share in our, my 44 years and his 46 years on this planet. We've learned a lot and we've grown a lot, and so we have a lot to share. So please tune in.
That's really amazing. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I know you're 10 years younger than Scott and I here. And I see you as two giants. You know that saying where they say we stand on the shoulders of giants?
Oh.
You two are going to be those people that...
Thank you.
People are going to stand on your shoulders because you're doing it. You did it. You've been there. Yeah. And I know you can hear the excitement in my voice. So I'm going to bring us back down a little bit, and I'm going to go, you guys know I'm going to do this. I'm going back in time. I am going back because 8-year-old Walt is standing right here beside me.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you want to say to him other than come with me, dude?
About to go.
Come see. Yeah.
I think
8-year-old.
So I'm going to shift that question a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want to tell a really quick story. So a couple of years ago, maybe like a year ago, my Aunt Diana, she was going through a closet at her house and she was moving, and she found this box of my stuff from high school. right? Now, remember, I testified against my father at 16 years old in court.
Yeah.
That was a culmination of all the abuse that happened to me since the day that I was born and the start of my new life at that point. And, there was notes from like girls and stuff and, all the silly high school stuff. For those of you guys who aren't old enough, we didn't have text and beepers back then. We used notes and folded them up cute. So,
Oh my God.
and there was this halfway folded piece of paper. And in the piece of paper, it was eerily similar to my prologue story in my book. I still don't remember writing it, but it's in my handwriting, even cursive and everything. And it talked about being, everything that happened wasn't my fault.
Oof.
It was bad circumstances. And because of those circumstances, I know that I can use my story to help other people. And there's a page of it, and I had more writing, and there's no more pages. Only the one page, like God wanted me to see this page, and it was after I published my memoir and everything.
Wow.
Here's the thing I would tell
It was
my
always in the
8-year-old
plan.
self. There's a plan for you.
Wow.
There's a plan for you, Walt. Little Walt, 8-year-old Walt, locked in the basement, terrified of being in the dark and this mass coming to life down there. My stepfather at the top of the stairs beating me if I tried to run out. There's a plan for you. You're going to be okay. Not only are you going to be okay, but you're going to be who you're going to be, which is going to be somebody super powerful because of what's happening right now. So even though you won't know, even though you can't trust, even though you don't know who God is, know that there's a plan on your life and there's a purpose we're going to use this pain for. And one day I'm going to unveil that to you after I give you a breakdown of corporate America. Because you're going to surrender to me and stop trying to do it your way and start doing it my way and living the purpose with the pain that I trusted you with. How many people out there listening are running from the pain that they've been trusted with? That's going to transform other people's lives. How many people are out there? Because I did for a long time. And I'm happier than I've ever been stepping into that. So that 16-year-old boy can tell that 8-year-old boy that. This 46-year-old man can tell that 16-year-old stuttering, terrified, unloved, trying to figure life out kid that went from surviving to finally having hopes and dreams for the first time in his life at 16 years old. Because one person's love gave me that opportunity when nobody else would. That's what I would tell those two young men.
Wow.
And so, I don't know what about you for 8-year-old little Steph?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to go that route, but
Go.
I wanted to share that we need to start looking at pain and struggle in a different perspective because we should be embracing that because we can't appreciate the joy if we don't go through the pain. We have to go through those things to be able to appreciate the good things
and grow.
And yes, if we don't go through that, we don't grow, we don't change. We would just stay the same. And what good would that be? So we need to start realizing, know that you're going to go through struggles and have a different perspective and start looking at it like, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? Because if you look at it that way, then it completely changes. You'll show up really differently.
Wow.
Brilliant.
I absolutely love that. And I've always said that the darkness, without the darkness, I couldn't appreciate the light.
Exactly.
And the darkest times of my life made me realize that I don't need the whole sun. All I need is one ray of light to live by and one ray of light to make me happy. And I've been given a gift. And Walt, Steph, the way you guys say it is just so eloquent and so well said that this pain has built us into better people. Has built us into people that can appreciate, have more gratitude, share more love than most people will ever have the opportunity to even touch within themselves. Because they've never known those dark times.
Well, and that's why we're doing this, because we want other people to see and feel that light that we feel.
Or they're running from the dark times, Scott.
Or
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
They're running from the trauma that don't get tired. They're hiding from the trauma that finds you every single time. So sometimes turn around, face it, run it over, and start looking out the damn windshield of life instead of the rearview mirror.
Oof. Wow.
Mhm.
That's
got
the
four.
victim. That's the victim mentality. All this stuff happened to me, and until we put down that victim mentality and start becoming survivors and warriors, I'm not a victim of child abuse. I'm a survivor, and I'm a warrior now. And I take that stuff, and all of that stuff, everything that I've forgotten in my life does not serve me anymore. It's the stuff I remember and the stuff that I have built my foundation upon that make me who I am. And you know what? The foundation of every beautiful building is in dirt, and it's dirty, and it's not always nice, but it is the foundation. And upon that, you build beautiful buildings, right?
That's true. That's
Yes.
true.
Love that.
Well put.
I got one last question for you, and then Mary can wrap it up, I guess, if you want. But what has this done for your family as a unit, your daughters and all of you, to come out and to be this open and to be who you are now? What has this done? Has this created something beyond your wildest dreams? I mean, tell me.
Yeah. And before you answer, and include your Auntie Diana in there, please.
I love my aunties. Go ahead, baby.
I know.
Oh man, that's a good question. I look at my daughters and I'm so proud. I'm so proud of them. And I am so proud of this guy right here because of his example of that. My daughter, I won't tell her whole story because we want to actually have her on to tell her own story. But she went through something traumatic, and I feel like because of the way my husband handles trauma the way he does, it gave her the courage to face hers. And not only that, but turn around and try to help other people. And she wants to help other people too.
Beautiful.
And that's just so beautiful to see. And, like I said, I give Aunt Diana so much credit because the credit is due there. It's the most powerful example of love I've ever seen, that she loved him the way she did. And look at the man we have today. Look at the people he's impacting because of the love she showed him.
Yeah.
So look at what one person can do. We tend to get caught up in, what difference can I make? And we think it has to be on some grand scale, and it doesn't. One person, like you loving one other person, you don't know what that ripple effect from that will do. It's like, that's the best example I can give you, is look at how it took one woman, and she was at the time early 20s with a newborn child, newly married, and she took in a 15-year-old broken boy into her
She was
life.
a baby. She was a baby herself.
And she didn't have it all together. She wasn't wealthy. She was struggling on herself to get by, but she saw something in him, and she just saw someone in need and acted on it. That's the difference. She took action. She acted on it. And look at what he's doing now. Look at the people he's trying to impact.
Yeah.
He's going to be on stages in front of thousands of people. He already has.
Yeah.
Yeah. His story is out there, and who knows how many people that's going to impact. It took one person. And
Monica put your quote on there. Leave this world a little bit better than you found it. She said she learned from the best, baby.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
talking about you, not me this time.
That is my I'll tell you
beautiful.
That's my mantra, is what she just said. Let's leave this world a little bit better than we found it. That should be our goal. That's what this life is about.
Yeah.
And
I think I'll answer this one real quick. It was super cool. So what I have also seen in my own family that I actually didn't expect in this journey was the example that we're setting and the ripple effect it's having in even my own family. Even for my Aunt Diana, who was my hero, Scott, you talked about the ray of light. That's all you need. That's all I had. In the pit of despair I lived in, and that victim mentality, and that life happened to me. Like, I didn't know about life happening for you. That was BS if somebody would have told me back then. she was the ray of light, that little bit of love that I needed to start to catapult my journey. And I've even seen her, through what we're doing, work on her own experiences and her own trauma.
Wow.
That now she's becoming the best version of her. I've seen my sisters do it. My mother has started to do it. She asked me about a year
Your
ago.
mother.
She goes, how are you actually happy? And I was like, well, I'll tell you, but you're not going to do it as my mom, because I'm not going to hear the buts and becauses and excuses. So we had a conversation about it. And this is a woman who at the time, at 66 years old, had drank or done drugs and always ran and hid from her trauma. This is why it's never too late. And I was like, Mom, whether you got 6 months, 6 years, or 77 more years left, why not spend it being happy instead of being scared? And she called me about 2 months. Well, we talked to her before then, but she called me about 2 months later and she goes, hey, I'm 2 months sober today. And I'm like, no shit.
Oh my God.
Whoa. And what she did is she went and got medication that makes you sick, right? If you drink, because she was struggling to let go of that herself. And it was the example that we're setting and the joy that she saw emanating from me because of what I went through, not in spite of it though, because of what I went through, that joy emanating, that impact and that ripple effect that you have, not even talking to that person sometimes, but being the example for them. So we got to be the example for other people. And to Stephanie's point, like, don't stand around and wait to tell somebody you love them. Don't wait to reach out to somebody and check in on them. Don't wait to reconcile with people. Realize, like, the love that you give somebody, the text you send somebody just to say, I hope you have a magnificent day, to somebody maybe you ain't talked to in 6 months, will save somebody's life at some point and you ain't even going to know.
Wow.
But that's the intention we need to walk in our life in. Love, gratitude, focused on being the best version of ourselves. Because when we're doing that, we could be the best version for others too.
Sorry, something just came to me while you were saying
Yeah.
that. Another thing that I think really helped Walt through with his piece of forgiveness that we were talking about earlier is recognizing that, and he always says, hurt people, but having that awareness that, you know, he had people that inflicted pain on him, and he came to the realization that they also were hurt. They didn't deal with their pain. And so they transferred that pain to him. And that's why he's so passionate about teaching people how to work through their pain, because they will transfer that to someone else if they don't work on it, if they don't change. So that's another big piece in, well, two things. It's a big piece of forgiveness, is being able to have that awareness that the person who hurt you was probably hurt themselves. And most oftentimes that is the case. If they're hurting you, it's because they're hurt. And it helps if you try to understand where that's coming from instead of just reacting and getting mad yourself. And that was a big piece for me in how I showed up for him. Was luckily I didn't come from, you know, I had a very loving home. And so I had that love to give. I didn't bring trauma into the relationship, so I could show up for him differently. But for those of you who haven't, I just implore you to work on yourself. First and foremost, everything comes from that. It is all about you, and recognizing and having the self-awareness that you have things that you have to work on. And when you get into a conflict with someone, you have to understand and recognize that, you know, take a step back and you know, understand where it's coming from. Sorry, Walt's over here. He's got something to say.
No, I was going to say, and then have the courage to take the action on it. That's the only other piece to that I was going to say. You can conceptualize all day and have self-awareness, but if you don't take action and learn how to respond and elevate your life floor, you're still going to be stuck in quiet desperation. So you've got to have the courage to take action and do something different than you've always done, to get something different than you've always had.
And know that it is your responsibility. If you want your
Yes.
life to be better, it's up to you to make it better.
Mhm.
Nobody else is going to come and rescue you from something that happened
Exactly.
20 years ago or 30 years ago. The only one who could do that is you. And
That's right.
although
That's right.
our first couple of chapters have been written by our families, and that's what happens when you're a child, is your
Mhm.
first few chapters. But at some point, the pen is in your hand, and whatever how your book ends is entirely up to you. And I'm just, you know what? Individually, I would talk to either one of you all day. I'm sure Mary would agree.
Yeah.
Individually, you guys are powerhouses.
Thanks,
Putting
Oh,
you
yeah.
two together,
you.
putting you two together is just like, it's almost like it's almost too much. You guys are so
Yeah.
you're so passionate about what you're saying and what
Yeah.
you're doing and the message that you want to share. And it's not because you want to go out there and be famous sharing a message. It's because you need more people to hear this
Right.
message, because you know
Yep.
how many people are out there suffering. I know how many people are out there still putting needles in their arms and coke in their nose and booze in
Yeah.
their belly because they think that's going to stop the pain.
Yeah, it's not the
Mhm.
answer.
And it's just, you guys are amazing. Mary, I don't know what else to say to these two other than
Woo. Thank you.
I guess the best compliment I can give you is life well done. I mean,
Thank
you
you. Yeah.
guys, you took what you had and you created a life that is just so well done. I'm so happy to know you, proud to know you two, and you guys
Me
are
too.
amazing.
Me too. Oh,
And Mary,
what happened?
Flipperoonie.
We lost her.
so, Mary just went sideways on us for a
She
second.
did. She sure did. Like her phone fell or something. I want to say thank you guys so much for having us on too. It's not lost on me that whenever Stephanie and I've been on podcasts, it's you're trusting us with your audience. You're trusting us to work in unison and collaborate together to make a larger impact than any one of us could have done on our own. And so it's been such a blessing to be here and be able to share your guys' space with your audience and with you guys. So I just thank you for that. And it matters to us that you trusted us in this way too.
Yes, I want to say thank you too.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for opening up this platform for us. Thank you for giving us an audience.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you two also for what you're doing, because you hosting this show, you're doing the same thing. You're out there trying to be a world changer, and you understand. You told us you shared that you came from a hard life also, and now you see the power in working on yourself and making those changes. And so I applaud you too for what you're doing. And that's all. Thank you.
I'm so happy. I'm hoping Mary will rejoin us in a moment. Just one last time, I want to remind everybody that you can go on Amazon and get the book. And it's not because I want to sell books for friends. It's because this is something I think people need to read, and people need to understand that again, your story, no matter how bad you may think your story is, it's your foundation, and what you do with it is entirely up to you now. You could stay down in the basement. You could stay in the basement of that foundation and just live there, or you could build your skyscraper on top of it and get on the roof and shout from the rooftops. Life can be whatever you want it to be. And I preach this every day, and this is what I do for a living. And it's just to meet people like you guys is so powerful. So please pick up a copy of Monsters in My House, and check out one more time, February 14th, you'll be launching your podcast.
Let's go.
Now, how will people find it? Just have we figured that out yet, or should they just friend you on Facebook and then go from there?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do now is if you're on Facebook, Walter with the ER McKinley, because I mean it's a whole Facebook thing. So Walter McKinley, or on Instagram at Walt McKinley Inspiration. We're also creating a Facebook page right now. It's been just to help people through trauma so far, Legacy Warriors. But I want to turn that into the Legacy Warrior podcast to give us a foundation of where to find us. Right now, just go to Walter McKinley on Facebook. Find me on there. You'll see my wife, Stephanie, in a relationship with Stephanie. You can friend her too. We'd love to continue to build this huge community that we're building, and build this warrior nation and teaching other people that are walking in the darkness, that they're not alone and there's a place that they can come to.
And being married, having her as your relationship person on Facebook is a smart move. Just another piece of advice for married guys out there. If your wife is not in your relationship status on your Facebook page, fix that now.
And don't put it complicated or whatever the thing is too.
Oh yeah, I love that one. It's complicated. It's complicated, you know. She hasn't drank the antifreeze yet. I don't know.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, 23 years of marriage, there were some complications here and there. That's for sure.
There's always complicated. You know what? But you know what? This is life. And life is up and down. And I know,
Amen.
I hope we can have you guys back on and we can do some more of this, because I'd love to talk about the perfect life is not everything goes perfectly. The perfect life is enjoying the ride and knowing,
brother,
you know, nobody stands in line to get on the monorail and just go around in a perfect smooth. They stand in line for hours to go on the roller coaster.
Yes.
Ups and downs and twists and turns. And that's what thrills us. And if we can find the joy in that kind of life, it's amazing what can happen. So,
amen.
Guys, again, Walt and Stephanie McKinley, thank you so much for joining us. You guys just hold on a second. And Mary Kay, she had a technical issue, got kicked off, but we will be back next week right here on The Life Between All or Nothing, the podcast with Scott J. and Mary Kay. Thank you all for showing up. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.